Welcome back, straight from the nest. Wars of the World Series 1, 7 Years War. Got a little bit coming up here for you. Viper here, but Nato's going to be narrating. We're going to take care of him just like you guys take care of me. We'll see you back here in just a moment. Thanks, guys. Hi guys, welcome back. We are so excited. We've got this game going. We have so many things to work with here and offer for you guys. It might be a little bit difficult to hear me, but please keep in mind, I am going to be in and out. I'm an instructor. I actually teach adults, and I'll be traveling all over the state, especially over the next next 2 or 3 months. So if you can see behind me, the board is actually right behind me, and Nato, who is actually a history major and an anthropology major, is doing a wonderful job putting this all together. He is doing so much work just getting all of this stuff and making sure the history is right just for you guys, and I really applaud him, even though he says I am so much better for the camera, but that's okay, so I'm not really worried about that. So you guys give him the good shout outs just like you did for us when we were doing Axis and Allies. We're going to go ahead and get started with the Series 1 of the 7 Years War. Now, a little backstory on that. I'm going to throw that out there, and then I have to get back to work. But 7 Years War was actually a 9 Years War. And just so you guys know, it actually was a complete global war. It was in the Americas. It was in South America. It was in Europe. It was in India. It was all over the place. So just understand that. But the only part that anybody remembers was the actual war. And depending on what history book you open up will actually tell you what happened. So while you're listening to Nato, please keep in mind that he does know his war history, and that's actually one of the parts that he majored in. So I love the fact that he can do this for us and he can put it together so that you guys can understand exactly what's going on. We have worked diligently and very, very hard to get these things together. And right now we're currently working on the rule book for World War III. And that includes nuclear atomic weaponry. It's going to be exciting. I'm so super stoked. We travel all over the place and we talk about it. We decide exactly what we're going to do, how many turns, how many hits, how many whatever. It's awesome. So just keep that in mind. I got to get back to work. I'm going to throw in the video, put it together for you guys. I'll see you guys at the end. Don't forget to hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching The Nest. Thanks, guys.
Hello everybody, this is Nato at the Nest, and yes, we're still alive, and number of people have been wondering, why we haven't continued our World War II game, and that's mostly because our cat decided she wanted to play too, and decided it'd be a good idea to hop on the table and take out Central Europe. So unfortunately, I had to put an end to that game. And as to where we've been for the last couple months, we decided to work on what we're calling our Wars Throughout the Ages project. And what that is we're selecting certain conflicts throughout the ages starting in the 1750s and going all the way through to a future World War III in the 2050s-ish. And the crux of the project is how one scenario ends will affect how the next scenario begins. So, say, example, say the French won the French and Indian War instead of the British. So that would mean that the next scenario, the American Revolution, the Americans are fighting the French for independence instead of the British. And then how that ripples on down throughout the ages. And so for the last couple months we've been working on that, developing the scenarios and figuring out hypothetically how if one faction won instead of lost, how that would affect the world going down the timeline. So our first scenario is going to be the 7 Years War, fought from 1754 to 1762. And yes, I know that's 9 years, but I'm not the one that named the war, so just bear with me. And the 7 Years' War, also known as the French-Indian War, was fought between England and France over the North American colonies. Now, the reason why we decided to start with this conflict is because it can be argued that the 7 Years' War, or French-Indian War, however you want to name it, was possibly the first true world war that humanity experienced, because it wasn't just fought in North America. The 7 Years' War was fought in North America, South America, the Atlantic, the Mediterranean, most of Europe, India, and even as far as the Philippines. And even though it was initially just a conflict between England and France, it eventually pulled in Portugal, Spain, Austria, Russia, Prussia, and Sweden, with England, Prussia, and Portugal versus Spain, France, Austria, Russia, and Sweden. And so the first half of this video is going to be a little different than our others. It's mostly just going to be me giving a little bit of a historical overview of the fight, and then explaining some of the rules specific to this scenario that we came up with. So I guess we'll start with, who's what. Red is England, obviously. Blue, France. Green's Austria. Gray, I know it's a little hard to see, but gray is Prussia. Black is Portugal. Yellow, Spain. White's Russia. And that kind of brownish color is Sweden. And all the ships, even though the ships are like different sizes and classes, all the ships are considered frigate classes. It's the best I could do. It's actually surprisingly hard to find sail ship models out there. The brown ships are transports, and they have a little flag underneath them to designate who owns them. The units are a lot simpler than Axis and Allies. We just got militia as the pink chips, and then we just got infantry, cannon, and cavalry. And one of the special rules is the cannon cannot be moved without a cavalry attached to it, and there's reasons for that that will be revealed in a later scenario. And let's see, I think that's Russia does have a unique unit. It's a special cavalry unit that's called the Cossacks, that they can start producing once they're at war, and it's just a +1 on attack and defense to their that cavalry. So the first couple years is just, the first 4 years, I believe, is just England and France, and for the first 2 years, the only fighting that is allowed is ground units in North America. And the reason for that is because for the first 2 years of the war, England and France were fighting each other, but war hadn't actually been declared on each other. So it was kind of an unofficial war, hence why it's called the 7 Years' War, not the 9 Years' War. So the first 2 years of the war, the only fighting that can be done is in North America. So none of the ships can fight, and no fighting in mainland Europe or India or anything. And then we'll see a gradual escalation, toward eventually the ships will start to be able to skirmish in the Atlantic, and then eventually full-scale war between England and France, where there's no restrictions and everything's on the table. And then further down the line, Austria and Prussia will come in, then after that eventually Russia and Sweden, and then finally Portugal and Spain. That's much further down the line. And let's see, for the first 2 turns, cities are off limits, so no attacking in Ottawa or New York, Washington, or Chicago, or New Orleans, because it's just skirmishing on the frontier. Let's see, trying to think of anything else new that I need to explain. Oh, Portugal, Spain, and Russia can't buy anything until they're actually at war, because first playtest of this, and this hasn't been completely playtested, so this is still in the testing phase, but the first playtest, Spain and Russia were able to build right from the get-go, and by the time they actually got into the war, their army was so massive that it just completely unbalanced the game. I mean, Russia came into the war with like over 100 infantry, and it was just ridiculous. So for game balance sake, Portugal, Spain, and Russia can't build any units until they're actually at war. Everyone else can. And I think, well, actually I know I'm probably forgetting something, but I can't think of it right at the moment. So for now, I guess we'll end part 1, and then the second half of this video will be the end results of the first turn. I'm not gonna break the turn into halves. At least this video, because, or probably the first couple videos, it's all going to be one video for the whole turn, because it's just England and France are the only ones fighting. Everyone else isn't really doing much until they actually get in it. So probably about halfway through the game, when everyone's in it, is when we'll start breaking up the videos into first and second half of the turns. So other than that, I think that's everything, and we'll see you at the end of the first turn.
Super awesome, isn't it? So this is really cool because he's throwing in the French and the British skirmishes that they had all over the place. The cities are locked out, so you can't attack those. You have one-hit wonders with the Navy ships. There's all kinds of stuff going on all over the place. So we're going to take a real quick break, an intermission. I am actually putting one of my classes together that I have tomorrow morning, so I have to get going. Nato is actually in the room behind me with the door closed, right over there. See, right there, and you can see the globes and you can see the maps, and they're all over the place. We have, excuse me. Oh my gosh, we have all kinds of really, really neat stuff going on. So that was the first 6 months of the war, of the 7 years war. So the next video that's coming up after the break is the next 6 months. So that'll be the continuation of the first year. And the next full video that I put out is going to be turns 3 and turns 4, just so you guys have a good idea of what's going on. I want to make sure that everybody is straight, everybody's got this together. The next time I do the editing for the video, I might be in one of my hotel rooms, but that's okay, so we'll just see you guys around. All right, thanks again. Bye.
Hey everybody, welcome back for the second part of the video. And originally I was going to go over each nation's victory objectives and their strategy, but it seems how most of the nations don't come into the war for several turns, I decided not to go over that one, mainly because whatever strategy that I would come up with now would potentially be irrelevant, because the strategic situation might have changed by the time they actually get involved. So I'll just go over England and France's for now, since they're the only ones at war, and then just go over what each nation did. So going with that, England goes first, and their victory objectives are to gain complete dominance over North America, so push France and Spain out of the eastern seaboard, and also to gain the Philippines from Spain. And then their last objective is to make sure Prussia survives, because at one point in this scenario there's going to be 4 different nations all gunning for Prussia. But seeing how Prussia isn't in the war right now, and it won't be in the war for several turns, England's not going to worry about that, and England's just going to focus on North America at the moment, because it can't do anything with the Philippines because Spain's not in the war. So the only thing it can affect right now is France in North America. So the situation at the start of the turn was England does have naval superiority in number of ships, and almost 10 IPPs more production than France does at the moment. So the British strategy right now is to use its superior number of ships and its better production to dump as many troops into North America as it can right now, because at the moment France has in terms of ground troops in North America, France has the advantage with a little over twice as many ground troops in North America than England does. So England's initial strategy in North America is going to be to just hold ground and wait for reinforcements to come from England. So combat-wise, England attacked the Great Lakes territory because by the rules of the game it has to. That's what kicks off this entire conflict, is a small skirmish between British and French forces on the frontier. And in this scenario, the ground forces only get 1 roll of the dice and then the combat's done. And it was 1 British infantry versus 1 French infantry, and neither hit, so the battle was inconclusive. So it did cause the zone to be contested, so France's production dropped a little bit because of the contested zone. And then the only other thing England did was it loaded up a transport, you see right there, with cavalry and cannon, and started moving it across to reinforce North America. So the only question is, where is that going to land? And that's about it for what England did. Prussia, all Prussia did was move some units around. It moved an infantry east towards Prussia, and then just built up forces in Berlin. Now, France, their goals are kind of the polar opposite of England's. France's goals is to push England out of North America and make sure Austria survives. Now, France starts at a disadvantage because it has roughly 1/2 the number of ships that England does, and it has a lower production. Its one advantage, like I mentioned earlier, is it has a numerical superiority on the ground in North America for now. And for France, they have kind of a tough decision. They have 2 enemies that they can fight. They can either fight England or they can fight Prussia. And they can't do both, so they have to focus on one. And if they focus on England, they're going to have to dump most of their production into ships, which means Austria is going to be pretty much left alone to fight Prussia. And even though it looks like Austria has more stuff on the board right now, that by the time Prussia and Austria get into the fight, that's not going to be the case. And Austria can't fight Prussia alone, and it won't survive long enough for Russia to get there. So if France decides to go west and fight England in the Atlantic and North America, they're pretty much going to be sacrificing Austria and then hoping Russia can make up lost ground when they enter. France's other option is they could go east and fight Prussia at the expense of North America. And the way the point values are set up that me and Viper developed, France can win by sacrificing North America, but it's a bit of a gamble because if France decides to sacrifice North America and go for Prussia, they can win, but only if Prussia falls. And it'll be a close victory regardless, because the way the point systems fall, if France and its allies can take down Prussia and Portugal, they can end the game with 10 points, and England and its allies will end with 8 points, so it'll only be a 2-point victory, and that's assuming everything goes right. So it's kind of an all-in gamble, but that's France's options. They can go west or they can go east. For now, because France can't affect anything with Austria or Prussia at the moment, the only thing France can fight right now is North America. So for now, France has decided to go west and fight England and North America. And pursuing that strategy, France mobilized everything it had in North America and attacked everywhere it could. France came from Ottawa and attacked New England and successfully took that. France then pulled local forces together in the Great Lakes region and tried to counterattack and push the British out of the Great Lakes region, and everything missed, so that battle was inconclusive. And then lastly, France came up from New Orleans and tried to take the Appalachians from England, and that attack failed. So France kind of broke even in North America because they had a victory, a draw, and a defeat. And then France loaded up a transport with cavalry and cannon and started sending it toward west to reinforce North America. So right now everything is heading west, and England and France are dumping everything they have into North America at the moment, 'cause that's the only thing that they can fight. England also moved its fleets around a little bit. That fleet right there that was off the coast of Normandy, Bordeaux, they sent it to the Azores. And then France's Mediterranean fleet that was sitting off Marseille, they've moved to the Strait of Gibraltar and probably gearing up for the inevitable naval clash in the Atlantic for naval supremacy. And also going with the fight England and North America, France took its transport that it had in India and has started sailing it around Africa. Although by the time it gets there, the naval battle will probably be decided, so we'll see what France does with it in the end. Austria, they just moved their forces around, kind of moved everything forward for get ready for the eventual clash with Prussia. Portugal, it sent its transport down to South America to potentially pick up its forces in South America and probably bring them back to Portugal to counter the inevitable Spanish invasion. Russia just moved west, took everything and moved it west and to get ready for when it joins. Sweden, it bought an infantry unit, and didn't go anywhere else because it can't for the moment. And Spain, like Russia, just moved everything west to prepare for the eventual invasion of Portugal. About 8.5 years down the road. And so that's the first round of the 7 Years' War, the first half of 1754. It was pretty quick, but these first 4 turns are going to be pretty fast, because the limits in who's fighting and who can move and who can purchase. But we will see what happens in the second half of 1754 and see what North America looks like at the end of the year. So thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Hey guys, hope you really liked that. A couple of credits to throw out there. Merchants and Marauders from Z-Man Games, Risk from Parker Brothers, Axis and Allies of 1914 by Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast, and of course, historicalboardgaming.com. Thank you, Nato, for narrating these videos. And don't forget to subscribe. And if you like what we're doing, get a squat on that like button. We also want to hear your opinions. Keep in mind that we are developing this game as we go along. So if you have any opinions, you have any comments, go ahead and shoot those below. We'll get back to you as soon as we can. Appreciate it, guys. Viper here, Viper out. Thanks for watching The Nest.